I turned 40 in December, and I'm thinking a lot about what I want my 40s to be like. I've never done this really before, like thinking about what my next decade should look like. I remember when I turned 30, I was actually quite sad because I thought I was really old. Like the gap between 20s and 30s, I thought was huge, like it's such a difference. And I started, I remember at my 30th birthday party, where I got, a little drunk. I was crying, sitting on the floor crying because, I cried about my 20s. So that was the beginning of my 30s, but my 40s should look a little bit different. I also didn't really have specific goals in my 30s apart from starting a family. So in my 40s, I want to approach it a little bit different. Let's start a little bit what my 20s were like. Again, I didn't start my 20s with having a proper plan. I wanted to work. I actually started working when I was 19, or it was an apprenticeship. So my plan then in my 20s was actually to study, to make the most out of it. But, I never really had a proper plan. But I have to say that my 20s were a lot of fun. I didn't have much money. I studied most of the time and then had maybe my first job. But even when I had my first job, I didn't make much money. So it was really not about money at all in my 20s, I have to say. I never felt a lack or bad about it. It was just a normal thing to be a broke student, basically. But I still had a lot of fun, and I had also a side job. So my parents supported me a little bit, but most of my income I made from like side jobs, what you do when you study. It's very different from when I see some 20-year-old who are millionaires, and then there are all these videos out there where you have to achieve a lot in your 20s. And my 20s were just to have fun, really. And I don't regret it, actually. I really, really loved it. So no regrets on that side. And then in my 30s, so I did have a partner at the time already for a few years. I wasn't sad, I was only sad at my birthday party when I turned 30. But in general, I overcame it quite quickly, and I wasn't too anxious or concerned about the 30s. I quickly realized that there's not much difference, or, that the 30s are now totally different. But I shifted my priorities a little bit. And I did want to start a family. That, was a bit of a goal. But then also, and I did that, which was great, But I also found that my 30s were like a decade of growth, a lot of discoveries. For example, obviously, I became a new parent. So that was a whole new world for me. I had to, discover a lot how to keep a baby alive, but also later when they grow up a little bit, there's a lot of questions about, how can you not traumatize them, how to find a balance between, being there for them and giving them what they need, but also teach them, gratitude or resilience and things like that. So if you are a parent, you maybe can relate to that. But having a child and having 2 children or more children just changes your life perspective a little bit, and you ask yourself a lot of questions, including also who I am as a person, who I want to be perceived as, especially when it comes to my kids. What do they think of me? Am I a very impatient parent, which I personally don't want to be, but it happens all the time. And I'm working on being more patient. And then also I discovered personal finance, and wow, I can actually save money, which was such a revelation for me. Honestly, you have no idea. Yes, I knew you can save money, but how and what does it mean, and all these kind of details around it, I had no idea, and I never really looked into it until in my 30s, and it really was a game changer for me. Like I have so many systems in place now, how to save money even when there are times when I don't earn much, when I was on parental leave, for example, like things like that. You can still make it happen. And then I learned about investing in the stock market, which is also like, it was so alien to me. Like I never heard about this in my 20s basically. So yeah, my 30s was a lot about discoveries. So in general, I would say I'm quite a positive person. I guess what I struggle with, and now we're coming to my 40s, is that I get overwhelmed quite quickly. I give myself tasks. So I'm basically my own boss. So it should be easier, but at the same time, I get distracted a lot. YouTube is my pleasure. I do watch quite a few videos as well. I equally love making videos, but I also watch videos. So there are two things I want to actually concentrate on in my 40s. But just as a recap, my 20s were about fun and fast. I traveled quite a bit. I actually moved to Singapore in my 20s as well. I started studying. So there's a lot of firsts and then a lot of fun, which I mentioned earlier. And then basically my 30s was about family and growth, a lot of discoveries, like especially more inward discoveries, like personal finance. What can I do to change my environment and the way I live and the way I perceive my world as well? And because I'm 39 right now, I also discovered, the world of obviously YouTube and content creation, but also digital products. What are digital products and how can I make use of digital products for my little lifestyle business? I started my business now as well, just in the last years of my 30s. So I feel like that is the beginning of something in my 40s. So two things I want to concentrate in my 40s. First, I want to concentrate on is being calm and being kind, and also discovering a little bit the spiritual side of things. So this part is very inward. So I want to work a lot on myself. So it has not really to do anything with my outside world. Being calm and kind is something I want to practice and discover a bit more. It's not that I'm not calm or kind. I know what it is like and I love it, and I want to do more of it. And sometimes when it gets a little bit stressful, especially with small kids, my daughters are 2 and 5, it gets very chaotic, and I feel like I should have, more opportunities to be calm and really try to practice that. Because, it's actually good for everyone. It's good for myself. It's good for my kids. They learn a lot if I approach things with calmness, but also with kindness, thinking a little bit more about what others feel and considering their circumstances, but also being kind to myself. Having 2 children, and it can really get loud sometimes, and it's hard, to stay calm and kind all the time. One thing actually which I think will help me a lot is meditating, and I have started it a little bit, but honestly I have failed. It's still not a daily routine. I still don't feel very comfortable meditating. That is something I just don't like about, but I know how beneficial it is. I love reading, so I know everyone says meditating is really good, and I also know you get more out of it if you practice it. And I think I haven't really practiced it long enough and consistently to see the benefits. So that is something I really want to tackle in my 40s and make it part of my life, because that will also help me to stay calm and kind, I think. And then I mentioned spirituality. I actually, really discovered a little bit the power of affirmations, and I'm using tarot cards and manifestation in my life, and actually I had a bit of a glimpse of it and I love it. I think it really can make a change, and I want to focus more on it in my 40s and make it part of me basically, because I think it's very powerful and it helps your self-esteem, and I don't know, it also helps you to look very positively into the future and enjoy the presence equally. And then the other part is basically more about financial independence. Having started my own business, and I started this YouTube channel, and I started selling digital products on Etsy, and I have many more plans I reveal here on my channel. This is something I really want to concentrate in my 40s. I don't have to be successful in a year. I am happy to spend really years and years to discover more what is possible, and also what is my kind of niche, or what is a mix of my skills and my interests, and then create digital products around it. And also, obviously, it is a bit about money. Don't get me wrong. I think I had a beautiful life so far, and money-wise also, there was nothing really, I found like particularly struggling. Again, in my 20s, I felt like I didn't need much money to be happy and have fun. And then in my 30s, I had enough money. I worked some jobs and freelancing, and I also have a partner, who supports me and our family financially. So we never struggled really with money. We had maybe some, like life things happening where maybe money was not always given. But in general, I just want to say like it was never really an issue. But now I'm at this point where I just want to explore what it really means to have money and not worry about it at all, and go on this holiday or that holiday without, looking if we can afford it. So have a bit of more, I'm not saying a luxurious life, but more like a life of really like complete freedom. To give you a little bit of a sense of the feeling, I went to like a shop the other day where they are selling furniture and like decorative things. And I was just looking around, and I was thinking I could buy something from here, some decorations and stuff like that. But then I decided not to. But not because I couldn't afford it. I just felt I don't need it, basically. And that feeling I want to have a little bit, where I can really make spontaneous decisions about spending money, but I also can have the freedom of, not spending money. And I'm really much into investing in the stock market, into funds. And that's something I want to do more. So I have to or want to earn more money. And so that's another world I really want to explore in my 40s. How far can I go with earning money? What's the potential of me earning money? Where can I go? And I'm really excited about it. And I don't feel like, why did I not do that in my 20s or 30s? Now, obviously, I never thought ahead of time to say like I want my 20s to look like this or my 30s like this, but now I'm like, now I want to maybe plan a little bit, or at least have a bit of a vision, manifesting a little bit like what my 40s could look like. And I have no regrets really of the way I was in my 20s and 30s. And I'm also very self-aware that sometimes you just discover things at a certain point in your life. So sometimes you don't see what is actually possible. Like I had no knowledge of investing in the stock market, or that it's even possible as an individual, until I learned about it in my 30s. And it's absolutely fine. Like there's nothing to regret about it, because I just didn't know before what it was possible. Obviously, I do have this practice of like, especially with YouTube, looking at different, channels and see what other people are doing to get inspired, but not to compare myself, which is hard sometimes, to be honest. But I made peace with it, that this is what I did in my previous decades. But now I have the power of changing whatever, I want, and I can work towards certain goals. And that's what I'm doing now in my 40s. And it's actually, I'm not scared basically to get older, because I have this decade of experimenting and discovering new things again, and I'm really excited about it. I don't feel, the number is again 40 and 40 plus, sounds old when I see sometimes 20-year-old people, or even now, at the 30, 31, 32-year-old people, but I don't have this feeling anymore that it's so bad. Like I discovered this channel the other day where this guy interviews like 60, 70, 80-year-old people, you know, and a lot of people say they don't feel like they're 80. And I really, really understand that, because I don't feel like 40 at all. I still feel like 27, but actually with a better mindset, because I'm more aware and I know myself better, which definitely helps a lot as well. And therefore, I think, yeah, the future is more exciting now, because you just have a different mindset and you discover more and you know better, and you learn things. And I love learning. So in every decade, for sure, I will not stop learning. So follow along my journey, and let me know in the comments down below where you are in your life, how old are you, and how do you feel about life. And then I will see you in my next video. Bye!